r/AskReddit. What's a deeply unsettling fact? The entire universe outside our galaxy could have completely disappeared over 20,000 years ago and we still wouldn't know it yet. Our view of the universe is actually what it looked like anywhere from thousands to billions of years ago with no way to see what it actually looks like right now. Imagine if you looked out your front window and saw your yard as it was 6 months ago, neighbor's house across the street a year ago, and houses a block or two away as they were several years ago. Also off in the distance you see the glaciers from the last ice age. That's what it's like looking out at the universe. The 1961 atomic bombing accident of North Carolina. The US Air Force came dramatically close to detonating an atom bomb over North Carolina that would have been 260 times more powerful than the device that devastated Hiroshima. 2 Mark 39 hydrogen bombs were accidentally dropped over Goldsboro, North Carolina on the 23rd of January 1961. The bombs fell to Earth after a B-52 bomber broke up in mid-air, and one of the devices behaved precisely as a nuclear weapon was designed to behave in warfare. Its parachute opened, its trigger mechanisms engaged, and only one low-voltage switch prevented untold carnage. Of the 4 safety mechanisms designed to prevent unintended detonation, 3 failed to operate properly. When the bomb hit the ground, a firing signal was sent to the nuclear core of the device, and it was only that final, highly vulnerable switch that averted calamity. I get goosebumps every time I read about it. There are at least 8 nuclear weapons that are known to be missing. Closer to 50, I think. Although someone found one of them recently. Alright, 1 down, 49 to go, this is fine. One day someone will mention you for the last time, then no one will ever mention you again. No one will remember you. They say you die twice. One time when you stop breathing and a second time, a bit later on, when somebody says your name for the last time, Shrek probably. Every day, one person takes the biggest shot in the world and doesn't even know it. Edit. And now my top rated comment is about giant killer shots. Oh, they know it. Your bones are wet. Hoo-fow chowie. Wet with bone hurting juice. 60% of the UK population feels like no one really loves them. The other 40% have objective proof. Always look on the bright side of life. That right now, this very moment, someone is trapped against their will, probably suffering at the hands of someone else, and wondering if anyone out there is thinking about them or remembers them. Now that's actually unsettling. Add to that the unsettling fact that there are more slaves in bondage today than at any point in human history. It is a double-edged fact because the percentage of the population that are slaves is much lower nowadays than at any time in human history. Just that there are so many humans, the small percentage of them that are slaves actually translates to the estimated between 21 million and 46 million. It is a horrible fact, and one that cannot be softened. That said, a human is still far more likely to live out a free life nowadays than at any other point in human history. Resistance to antibiotics is growing at such an alarming rate that they risk losing effectiveness entirely, meaning medical procedures such as cesarean sections, joint replacements and chemotherapy could soon become too dangerous to perform. Unless urgent action is taken, drug-resistant infections will kill 10 million people a year by 2050, more than cancer kills currently, the report's authors warn. Which is why I suck the manky moistness out of my kitchen sponge. Immune system level up. Seriously, picked the wrong thread to read with breakfast. You can think about moving your hand, and it won't move. But when you want to move your hand, it just moves. You can even want to move it, yet not move it. To move it, you must will it, which is somehow different. The duck is this. Brain aneurysms can happen whenever, wherever. According to a recent Fertwingen study, your kitchen sponge is as clean as turd. Oh, well, I guess I should stop sucking the juices out of my kitchen sponge. I love to get all the little bits of food juice out. Sometimes a little tasty nugget. I physically cringed at that. Bits of food juice stuck. If you are a certain distance from a nuclear explosion, you won't be killed immediately, but instead, you'll get third-degree burns throughout your entire body. This kills your nerves so fast that it's completely painless. That's not the worst way to go. Keep in mind that you wouldn't die immediately. The following agony would be worse than the pain you didn't experience. Never mind. For those of you with children, you only have about 1,000 weekends with them before they are adults. Well, that makes it sound much more manageable. Yeah, everyone here is sad and I'm like, duck, yeah, only 999 more weeks to go. We are alive at what the overwhelmingly vast majority of the universe will know as the extremely distant past 13 billion years into something that could very well make a trillion years look like the blink of an eye. If the universe was a download, it would be another 80 billion years before we get to 1% of the amount of time it takes a very small star to go through its hydrogen. Yep. You and I are alive at the beginning. Not the middle, not the end. We are the bacteria. The first firefighter killed responding to the 9/11 attacks was struck dead in the courtyard by a falling body. 2 people, killed simultaneously, one on his way in, the other on their way out. There are a huge amount of illnesses that aren't curable or even treatable. We have this idea that we go to a doctor, they find out what's wrong with us and then fix us. There are many illnesses that make doctors throw up their hands because they don't even know what is causing us to be unwell, and people are often ill for years, or life. I'm always disturbed by the idea that when I get older, if I do, I'll watch my friends and family pass away, or they'll watch me. I want to be the cute couple that dies of old age minutes hours apart, so my husband or I don't have to suffer loss. There's now a strain of gonorrhea which is totally resistant to antibiotic treatment. Well, I'm pretty safe. Sob. Edit. OFFS. My second highest rated comment is about being forever alone. We are the lucky ones. Masturbate us furiously. Serial killers have been known to keep captured victims alive for years or even decades. What gets me is the thought that some people are currently locked in a dark room for years and don't know what's happening. We call them pets. Hospitals in America sometimes charge over $30 for a dose of ibuprofen. That if you have clothes in your wardrobe and food in your fridge, you're in the richest 20% of people in the world. Something so simple would categorize you above 80% of people in the world. Every year you unknowingly pass the future anniversary of your death. Is it today? No, it's next week. I took an Facebook quiz that proved it. Every picture you pose for could be the one used in your obituary. That's why I moon the camera every time. Right now there are tiny little bugs living on your face, munching on your dead skin. Good. They're keeping my face from being covered in rotting meat flakes. Like a bunch of little landscapers. Keep up the good work, boys. A child dies of hunger every 15 seconds. Stop counting then, you sick duck. Every 60 seconds, a minute passes in Africa. Your donation can make a difference. If you don't have kids, you will break an unbroken line of children that has gone on for tens of millions of years. As an only child, this is weird to think about. Once I said hi to my neighbor and she replied with like hi hi, and she walked 50 m further and hit by a car. You never know how random and to how random people your last words will be. I wouldn't want my last words to be add me some mayonnaise to that, darling. At some point in the future, one user in this thread will be alive and everyone else will be dead. Statistically, someone who reads this thread will die in the next couple of days. Will it be you? Dear God, I hope so. In 1983, the world came closest to a full-scale nuclear war between Russia and the US. Back then, Russia's nuclear early warning system reported that a missile had been launched from the United States, followed by up to 5 more. Stanislav Petrov, the duty officer at the command center at that time, was tasked with observing the satellite early warning network and notifying his superiors of any impending nuclear missile attack against the Soviet Union. If notification was received from the early warning systems that inbound missiles had been detected, the Soviet Union's strategy was an immediate and compulsory nuclear counterattack against the United States. Petrov dismissed the warning as a false alarm. He deduced that a first-strike nuclear attack by the United States was likely to involve hundreds of simultaneous missile launches in order to disable any Soviet means of a counterattack. His suspicion was confirmed when no missiles arrived at the proposed time of impact. Later, it was determined that the false alarms were caused by a rare alignment of sunlight on high-altitude clouds in the satellite's small near orbits, an error later corrected by cross-referencing a geostationary satellite. So the only reason why civilization as we know it didn't cease to exist in 1983 was the level-headed behavior of a single man. What a top lad. If you read up on the history of nuclear incidents, a lot of them come down to this one Russian guy decided he didn't want to end the world today.